The high priestesses stood in a circle around a single trembling boy, his wrists bound in sacred cloth, his pale hair glinting like spun moonlight. He was beautiful, too beautiful for the cruel fate carved into his skin. The boy's name was Lysander, born an Omega, marked by the moon since birth. On the night he was born, the temple's oracle had screamed of a vision, a red moon, a throne soaked in blood, and the words that sealed his doom: "The moon Omega will die by the hand of the Alpha King." That prophecy spread like wildfire through the empire. Some called him a curse, others a divine offering to the gods, but tonight, under the trembling silver sky, he was nothing more than a frightened 17-year-old about to die for something he did not understand. "Lysander of the Moon Temple," intoned the high priestess, her voice echoing across the stone chamber. "The stars have decreed your destiny. Your life must end before your curse reaches the Alpha King." Lysander's throat tightened. His bound hands trembled. "Please, I've done nothing wrong," he whispered. "I don't even know him." But the priestesses did not waver. They had no choice. The empire feared prophecy more than sin, and killing one boy was easier than tempting fate. From the shadows of the temple, a cloaked figure stepped forward. His emerald eyes glimmered beneath the hood. Cassian, a young beta priest who had raised Lysander since he was small. His expression was carved from anguish. He bowed low before the high priestess. "Please, your grace," he said softly. "He is still a child. The prophecy can be misread. I will take him far from the capital. Let him live quietly where no Alpha King will ever see him." The high priestess hesitated. Even she feared the cruelty of what they were about to do. But the full moon pulsed above them, and the crimson shadow of the coming eclipse began to creep across it. "The blood moon rises," she murmured. "There is no time." As two guards stepped forward, Lysander's panic snapped. He lunged, breaking free from Cassian's grip, and ran. "Lysander!" Cassian shouted after him. The boy's bare feet struck the marble floor, echoing through the temple corridors. Behind him, the sound of pursuit, armor clashing, orders shouted, the wind screaming through open arches. He burst through the temple doors and into the freezing night, his breath misting in the air. The moon loomed red above him, enormous, ancient, bleeding light across the world. He ran through the forest path below the temple cliffs, heart hammering in terror. Branches tore his robe, his silver hair tangled with leaves. He didn't stop until his legs gave out by a frozen river, the light of the moon turning the water crimson. He fell to his knees, gasping. "Please," he whispered to the heavens, "I don't want to die." And for the first time, the moon answered him. A shimmer of light enveloped his body, soft and cold. The river around him glowed. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled, deep, primal, and ancient. The prophecy stirred. The moon Omega had chosen to live, and destiny began to twist. Days later, Lysander awoke in a distant village, his memory hazy. Cassian had found him near death and hidden him among traveling healers, giving him a new name, Leon. He was told to never reveal his scent, to never show his moon mark, and above all, to never let an alpha near him. Years passed. The Empire forgot the boy who defied his death. But destiny did not. Because one fateful night, on a battlefield soaked in blood and rain, the same boy would kneel beside a dying soldier, press his glowing hands against a wounded chest, and unknowingly save the man destined to destroy him, the man who would become his obsession, the Alpha King. The wind howled like a wounded beast across the barren plains. Smoke and ash rose from what was once a proud fortress, now reduced to ruins and bodies. The northern sky bled crimson, reflecting the fires that raged across the battlefield. Lysander, or Leon, as he now called himself, stumbled through the wreckage, clutching his healer's satchel to his chest. His white robes were stained with blood, not his own, but of those he had tried and failed to save. He wasn't supposed to be here. He wasn't supposed to heal soldiers, especially not alphas. But when the war reached the village, when screams filled the air and smoke blackened the sun, his heart refused to stay hidden. He could not ignore the dying. He moved among the fallen with trembling hands, whispering prayers under his breath, as he pressed his glowing palms to wounds. The faint silver light that left his fingertips was unlike any healing magic the soldiers had ever seen. Moonlight itself, pure and ancient. Each time he healed, he weakened. Each time he helped, his heartbeat stuttered painfully, as though the curse itself clawed at him for daring to use his power. But then he heard it, a low groan, faint, deep, and powerful. He turned, and through the smoke he saw him, a man half buried under fallen stones, armor shattered, crimson cloak soaked in rain and blood. He was tall, impossibly broad-shouldered, and radiated an aura so commanding that even wounded, the air seemed to bend around him. Lysander hesitated. Something primal in him whispered, "Run." Yet another voice whispered, "Stay." He knelt beside the man and brushed aside a strand of soaked black hair, revealing a sharp, striking face. Even unconscious, his expression was fierce. His lips were set in a stubborn line, his jaw strong, his body scarred with battles. He looked more like a fallen god than a mortal man. Lysander's breath hitched. He didn't know who this man was, that he was touching the most feared alpha in the Empire. King Darius Valenhart, the Wolf of the North. He only saw a man dying, and he couldn't let that happen. He pressed his glowing palms to the king's chest, whispering softly, "Please, live." The light spread, wrapping the alpha's body like liquid moonlight. The air pulsed with power, the wounds began to close, but something else stirred, a heartbeat, then another, stronger, and then the alpha's eyes opened, golden, ferocious, blazing with heat and something raw, recognition. Lysander gasped as the world seemed to stop. The scent of rain and blood faded, replaced by something dark and intoxicating, a scent that made his skin prickle and his inner wolf tremble. Alpha. And not just any alpha, his alpha. The moment their eyes met, something ancient awoke in Darius's chest. The beast inside him, the dormant wolf that had slept through countless wars, roared back to life. His pupils narrowed, his hand shot up, gripping Lysander's wrist. Lysander froze. "Who are you?" Darius rasped, voice deep and hoarse, but dangerous even in weakness. "You're sent. Gods, what are you?" Lysander's pulse raced. He tried to pull back. "I'm just a healer. Please, let me go." But Darius didn't release him. His fingers tightened, his golden eyes darkening with something feral. He could feel it. That elusive, forbidden scent of moonlight and honey that no alpha could mistake. An omega. His fated one. The urge to claim, to mark, to possess crashed through him like wildfire. He fought it, teeth clenched, every muscle shaking with restraint. He was an alpha king, not a beast. And yet, every instinct screamed to pull this trembling creature into his arms and never let go. The faint scent of Lysander's suppressed pheromones made his blood boil. He leaned closer, breathing in, as if to confirm that this was real, and not a hallucination from blood loss. Lysander's eyes widened. "Please," he whispered, "you shouldn't. Your wounds. What did you do to me?" Darius's voice dropped to a growl. "My body. It responds to you." "I healed you," Lysander said quickly. "That's all. Now you must rest." But Darius's hand moved to the back of his neck, fingers brushing over the spot where his moon mark hid beneath his collar. Lysander flinched violently, heart skipping in terror. If the mark glowed, if the alpha saw it, he'd know exactly who he was. The moon omega. He jerked away, snatching his hand free. "You're strong enough to move now. Don't follow me." He stumbled to his feet and ran, leaving behind the Alpha King still half lying in the mud, staring after him in shock and hunger. Darius sat up slowly, the scent of the Omega still clinging to him like a fever. He touched his chest. The wound was gone, completely healed, but his heart was burning. "A healer," he murmured. "No, not just a healer." He looked up toward the blood-red moon still visible through the clouds. The voice of his wolf growled inside him. "Find him. Claim him." That night, the Alpha King lived when he should have died. His generals called it divine intervention. But Darius knew the truth. It wasn't the gods who saved him. It was him. The mysterious silver-haired Omega whose scent now haunted his every breath. He would search the ends of the earth to find him again. And when he did, he wouldn't let him go. The great capital of Valenhart pulsed with life beneath the dawn light. Banners bearing the royal crest, a black wolf beneath a crimson moon, fluttered from the palace towers, signaling the king's return from war. The people rejoiced. Their invincible Alpha King had returned victorious, though none knew the truth, that he'd come back from the edge of death, saved by the touch of a nameless stranger. But to Darius Valenhart, victory felt empty. He stood alone in his chambers, stripped of his armor, his body still echoing with the phantom warmth of the Omega's touch. He had faced countless battles, slain countless foes, yet nothing had ever haunted him like this. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw him, silver hair gleaming in the rain, trembling hands glowing with light, those wide moonlit eyes filled with terror and kindness, and his scent. Gods, that scent. It lingered like a drug in Darius's lungs, haunting every breath. He couldn't focus. Not on council meetings, not on politics, not even on sleep. "Your Majesty," said Cassian, his ever-loyal beta general, "the troops await your next command." "The southern borders. Find him," Darius interrupted, voice low, dangerous. "The healer who saved me on the battlefield." Cassian blinked. "A healer, sire?" "The villages are full of them, not like him." Darius's eyes flashed gold, silver hair, eyes like moonlight. "He used strange magic, old magic. I want him found." Cassian hesitated. He had heard whispers of a silver-haired healer in the borderlands, the very one he had once saved years ago. Could it be Lysander? His pulse quickened, but he bowed his head, concealing his reaction. "As you wish, Your Majesty." Darius turned to the window. Outside, the crimson sunrise bled across the kingdom. He clenched his fists, remembering the feel of that delicate wrist in his hand. "He healed me," he murmured, "but he also cursed me. My wolf won't rest until I see him again." Cassian watched silently, torn between loyalty and dread. He knew what the prophecy said, that the moon Omega would die by the Alpha King's hand. If the healer truly was him, then fate was already unfolding. Meanwhile, the village of Edris. In a quiet corner of the Empire, far from the capital's gleam, Lysander sat by a wooden window, mending herbs with trembling fingers. 3 years had passed since that night on the battlefield, yet he could still feel the Alpha's gaze burning in his memory, the scent of power, the weight of his voice. He had hoped to forget, to live quietly among mortals, far from prophecy and blood, but fate was cruel. Lately, every full moon burned hotter, his suppressants failing more quickly. His scent, once masked, had begun to seep through again, faint but impossible to fully hide. And tonight, the air felt different, heavy, charged, as if the wind itself carried a warning. A knock startled him. Cassian stood at the door, dressed plainly, hood shadowing his face. "You shouldn't be here," Lysander whispered. "Someone might see." "They already are," Cassian said softly, stepping inside. "The king's men are searching the borderland." "He's looking for you, Lysander." Lysander froze. "For me?" Cassian nodded. "He doesn't know who you are, not yet. He only remembers your face, your power. But if they find you, he'll kill me," Lysander whispered bitterly. "Just like the prophecy said. Or worse," Cassian murmured. "He'll love you." Lysander looked up sharply, heart pounding. "Love me?" Cassian's gaze softened, sorrow flickering in his eyes. "The Alpha King is dangerous, Lysander. But I've seen him, restless, haunted, driven by something primal. If he finds you, his obsession will consume you both." Lysander's hand shook. The memory of that moment, the touch, the eyes, the warmth, it all came flooding back. His body still remembered what his mind tried to forget. "Then I must run again," he whispered. "Farther this time, where even the gods won't find me." But as he gathered his herbs and tucked his moon mark beneath his collar, something deep inside whispered that it was already too late. Because far beyond the mountains, Darius's scouts had already caught wind of a silver-haired healer in a remote border village, and the Alpha King, restless and sleepless, was preparing to ride out himself. That night, the palace courtyard. Rain poured as Darius mounted his black stallion, cloak billowing behind him. Cassian watched from the stairs, voice tight with warning. "You ride personally, Your Majesty? To chase a rumor." Darius turned his head slightly, eyes glowing faintly under the stormlight. "He's not a rumor. I felt him. My wolf hasn't slept since, and if the gods curse you for defying fate, then let them, Darius said. If destiny wants me to kill him, it'll have to pry him from my hands first. He spurred the horse forward, thunder rolling behind him, rain slicing across his armor. The crimson cloak whipped behind him like a banner of blood. The hunt had begun. The forest shivered beneath a restless sky. Rain hissed through the pines, the moon hiding behind a shroud of thunderclouds. Every drop that struck the earth seemed to echo the pounding of hooves approaching from the north. Lysander ran. His cloak clung to him, soaked and heavy, breath burning in his throat. The faint blue glow of his satchel, his healing crystals, lit the path ahead. He had fled before dawn, leaving behind the small house and the few villagers who still trusted him. But the wind carried scents he could not ignore: steel, horses, and something else, wild and electric. Alpha. He hid behind a fallen oak, clutching the satchel to his chest. His heart drummed in his ears. Please, he whispered to himself, not him, not now. Thunder cracked. From the shadows, torches flared. Soldiers dismounted, scanning the woods. They bore the crest of the crimson wolf, and at their head rode a tall figure clad in black armor, rain sliding down his face like molten silver, King Darius. Even through the storm, his presence bent the world around him, the aura of an alpha king, commanding, magnetic, impossible to ignore. Search the forest, Darius ordered, voice low and edged with hunger. He's here. I can smell him. The words hit Lysander like a blow. He pressed a trembling hand over his mouth, trying to steady his breath, but the rain betrayed him. A faint rustle, a flash of white from his cloak. Darius turned sharply. Golden eyes met his. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Time stopped. Then Darius dismounted, moving through the rain like a predator closing in on prey. You, he breathed, his voice roughened by disbelief. It's you. Lysander backed away until his heel struck a root. Stay back. The alpha stopped only a few paces away. His gaze softened, though the storm in it did not fade. I thought I dreamed you. The healer on the battlefield. You vanished. You should have let me, Lysander whispered. If you knew who I was. I don't care who you are, Darius said. You saved my life. Since that night, I haven't been able to think of anything else. His gloved hand rose as if drawn by instinct to brush a strand of wet hair from Lysander's face. Lysander flinched back, but the touch never came. The king's fingers hovered in the air, trembling. Why are you running from me? He asked quietly. Because you're not meant to find me, Lysander said, voice breaking. The gods said, to the abyss with the gods. Darius's tone darkened, and thunder answered him. I make my own fate. For a moment they simply stood there, rain between them, hearts pounding. The wind carried the scent that had haunted Darius for years. Moonlight, herbs, and something heartbreakingly gentle. His eyes softened. You're cold, he murmured. Come to the fire. I swear no harm will come to you. Lysander wanted to believe him. The alpha's voice wrapped around him like warmth, like safety, dangerously comforting. But the memory of the prophecy burned in his mind. If I stay near you, he whispered, someone will die. Then let it be me, Darius said. The words fell heavy between them. Part vow, part surrender. A flash of lightning split the sky. Soldiers called from afar, breaking the spell. Darius turned his head slightly. Stand down, he barked. No one touches him. Lysander took the moment of distraction and slipped away, darting into the deeper forest. Darius spun back, curse on his lips, but by the time he reached the clearing's edge, the silver-haired Omega was gone again, swallowed by the storm. He stood there for a long while, rain streaking down his face, chest heaving. You can run, little moon, he murmured to the dark. But I will find you again. I always do. Above them, the clouds thinned for a heartbeat, letting a pale beam of moonlight break through. It touched Darius's face, then vanished, like a promise the heavens could not erase. The storm had turned the forest into a maze of shadows. Trees leaned under the weight of wind and water, their branches thrashing like the hands of ghosts. Lysander ran until his lungs burned, the world a blur of mud, roots, and flashes of white lightning. Behind him came the echo of pursuit, hooves striking wet ground, men calling to one another. The king's soldiers. He pressed a hand against his chest where his moon mark throbbed beneath soaked fabric. The faint light that always slept under his skin threatened to flare again. Not now. Please, not now. He stumbled across a stream, waded through freezing water, and clawed his way up the far bank. For a brief moment he thought he had lost them, until a low growl rolled through the trees. Not a wolf, a man. Enough running, came the voice, rough and steady even through the storm. Lysander froze. The air shifted, the scent of power closed in behind him. He turned slowly. King Darius stood there, armor streaked with rain and dirt, sword drawn but lowered. The torchlight behind him haloed his frame, turning him into a figure cut from shadow and flame. "You'll hurt yourself," Darius said. "The ground's treacherous. Let me go," Lysander managed, voice thin. "You don't know what you're doing." "I do," the king replied. "I'm ending 3 years of searching." He took a step forward. Lysander stepped back, and his heel slid on wet leaves. He fell, but before he struck the earth, Darius caught him by the wrist. The strength in that grip was absolute, yet not cruel. It held him still, as if the storm itself had stopped to watch. Their eyes met, gold to silver. "You're trembling," Darius murmured. "Are you afraid of me? Of what will happen because of you?" Lysander whispered. For a heartbeat, neither moved. The world narrowed to the sound of rain and their ragged breaths. A shout broke the moment, one of the soldiers emerging through the trees. "Your Majesty, do you need—" "Stand down," Darius snapped, never looking away from the Omega. "He's under my protection." The soldier hesitated, then backed away into the dark. Lysander tried once more to pull free. "You can't keep me," he said. "You don't understand." "Then explain it to me," Darius said. "You appear, you heal me, you vanish. The gods bring me to you again. I won't lose you a second time." His tone wasn't anger, it was desperation wrapped in authority. He reached up, brushing rain-soaked hair from Lysander's forehead. "You're shaking. Come willingly, and I'll call off the hunt." Lysander's voice broke. "If I come with you, someone dies." Darius's jaw tightened. "If I let you go, I die inside my own skin." The words silenced the forest. Even the rain seemed to hesitate. He lowered his cloak around Lysander's shoulders. "You're coming home, healer. No chains, no threat. Just the truth between us." Lysander's knees weakened, exhaustion and fear blending into something close to surrender. He nodded once, barely. Darius gave a short command. The soldiers melted into the trees, leaving only the two of them under the bruised sky. The king guided him toward his waiting horse, steadying him when his legs faltered. Every touch was careful, reverent. When they reached the road, the storm began to ease. The moon broke through the clouds for a moment, silver light spilling across the armor of the Alpha King and the pale hair of the Omega, who could not outrun fate. Lysander woke to the sound of birdsong and the faint scent of incense. For a moment, he thought he was still dreaming, because everything around him was impossibly soft. The bed beneath him was layered in silk and fur. Golden light spilled through high-arched windows painted with scenes of the moon goddess. Then memory returned like a blade to the chest. The forest. The storm. The Alpha King's voice saying, "You're coming home!" He sat up quickly. His silver hair tumbled loose around his face, and the silk robe someone had wrapped around him slid off one shoulder. His wrists were unbound. No chains, just freedom. And yet, when he looked toward the grand doors, 2 guards stood outside in silent watch. He wasn't a prisoner, but he wasn't free either. The door creaked open before he could think of escape. A servant entered, bowing deeply. "Your Grace, the king requests your presence in the eastern garden when you are ready." "Requests," Lysander murmured, eyes narrowing. "Not commands?" "He said, you are not to be forced." The servant's tone was careful, almost respectful. When the servant left, Lysander dressed in the clothes left for him, a pale tunic threaded with silver, soft boots, and a cloak light as moonlight. Everything fit him perfectly, too perfectly. He must have ordered these made, while he was still searching for. The eastern garden was bathed in early sunlight. Dew sparkled on the petals, and the fountain's waters shimmered like liquid glass, and there, standing with his cloak half unfastened and his crown discarded on a marble bench, was King Darius. He turned when he heard Lysander's footsteps. For a moment his face softened, completely unguarded, just a man seeing the one thing he thought he'd lost. "You're awake," he said quietly. "You're safe now." "Am I?" Lysander asked, his voice soft but steady. "Or am I simply in a prettier cage?" Darius's smile faded. "If I meant to cage you, there would be locks on your door, and yet guards at it. The king took a slow breath. He approached, not as a ruler, but as someone unsure how close he's allowed to be. "They're there because the court already whispers," he said. "They know I brought an Omega here. They don't yet know who you are. If they did, half would worship you and half would want you dead." Lysander flinched, heart skipping. "So you do know," he whispered. Darius nodded. "The moon-born healer, the one foretold to die to save the next age. You were never just a dream." "Then you understand why I ran," Lysander said. "My death is written. You can't stop it. I don't care what's written," Darius said, stepping closer. "If the stars want to take you, they'll have to fight me for you." The words came out low, fierce, and not as a king's command, but a vow. His golden eyes shone like fire breaking through fog. Lysander's breath caught. For the first time since their first meeting, he didn't step away. Something in Darius's expression, a strange mix of strength and sorrow, unraveled the fear coiled in his chest. The Alpha reached out, brushing a strand of silver hair behind Lysander's ear. "You once healed me," he murmured. "Now it's my turn to protect you." Lysander's lips parted, but no sound came out. He wanted to tell him that fate could not be undone, that love between them would only hasten his death. But his voice trembled, and the words refused to form. For the first time since the night of the prophecy, he wanted to believe in something other than doom. The wind stirred. Somewhere beyond the garden walls, the palace bells began to toll, the signal that the Council of Lords had arrived. The peace shattered like glass. Darius looked toward the sound, then back to him. "Stay here," he said. "Whatever you hear, don't leave the garden. What is it?" "Trouble," the king answered grimly. "They've come for you." And before Lysander could reply, Darius turned, cloak snapping behind him as he strode away, every inch the Alpha King ready to fight a world that wanted to steal his fated mate. The great hall of the palace thundered with angry voices. Beneath the vaulted ceiling, the Council of Lords, 12 of the most powerful men in the realm, stood before the throne like wolves scenting blood. Their jeweled cloaks swirled, their fingers clutched scrolls and seals, and their words echoed through the marble chamber. "Your Majesty, this cannot stand. An Omega in the royal wing, within the sacred chambers of kings. The prophecy forbids it. He must be given to the temple." At the center of it all stood King Darius, silent at first, his gaze fixed on the storm of men around him. The sunlight cut across his face, making his golden eyes burn with restrained fire. He didn't sit on his throne. He stood in front of it, guarding it. "Enough," he said at last, his voice deep, quiet, but strong enough to still every voice in the hall. "You speak of prophecy as if you understand it better than the gods who wrote it." Lord Halvar, oldest among them, slammed his staff against the floor. "We do understand it, Your Majesty. The moon-born healer was destined to die to cleanse the curse from our lands. If he lives, the curse festers. You defy the heavens by keeping him alive." Darius's jaw tightened. And if the heavens were wrong? A shocked murmur swept through the council. "Blasphemy!" one shouted. "You endanger us all!" cried another. But Darius only raised his hand. Silence followed again, unwilling but absolute. "3 years ago," he said, "I was struck down by a blade poisoned with wyvern venom. No healer could cure me. No magic could ease the pain. I should have died that night." He turned slowly, eyes burning gold as molten metal. And then he came, pale as moonlight, trembling, terrified, and he laid his hands upon me. Within moments the venom was gone. My heart beat again. "You call him a curse," he continued, his voice echoing against the marble walls. "But I call him a miracle." The nobles shifted uneasily. Some looked away, others muttered prayers under their breath. "Your Majesty," said Lord Halvar, lowering his tone, "even if the boy saved your life, his existence threatens the balance of the realm. The old texts say the moonborn will die before the year's end. If you keep him here, if you love him, his death may bring ruin to you both." The word love hung in the air like lightning. Darius did not deny it. "Then let ruin come," he said quietly. "I would rather destroy fate itself than hand him over." Gasps filled the chamber. One of the younger lords whispered, "He's bewitched." The king's expression hardened. He stepped forward, every inch of him a warrior and ruler. "If any man dares to touch him, speak against him, or utter his name beyond these walls, I will have their tongue cut out and their lands burned to ash. Is that clear?" No one answered. Fear and awe mingled in the silence. At last, Lord Halvar bowed his head, trembling. "Then may the gods have mercy on us all, your majesty." Outside the hall, Lysander stood in the garden, hidden among the roses. He had heard everything. His heart pounded so hard it hurt. He would defy the heavens. For me, he wanted to run to him, to beg him not to throw away his crown, his kingdom, everything. But before he could move, a shadow stirred among the trees. It was the royal seer, cloaked in black and silver, her blindfold glimmering faintly under the light. "He has sealed his fate," she whispered. "And so have you, Moonchild." Lysander turned, fear rushing through him. "You mean the prophecy—" "It changes now," the seer said softly. "Love rewrites everything, but not always for the better." And before he could ask another question, she was gone, her voice lingering like a chill wind through the garden. Lysander looked toward the great hall, where the Alpha King now stood alone before his throne. For the first time, he felt both warmth and dread at once. The moon was high when Darius returned to the eastern wing. The palace lay quiet, its corridors dimly lit by lanterns that painted golden trails along the stone. Beyond the glass doors, the gardens shimmered under moonlight, and somewhere, a night bird called. Lysander sat by the window of his chamber, his pale hair catching the glow of the moon. He hadn't slept. He couldn't. The seer's words haunted him like the echo of a song that would not end. Love rewrites everything, but not always for the better. The door opened softly. Darius entered. No crown, no armor, just a loose black tunic and the weight of the day on his shoulders. His golden eyes softened when they found Lysander. "You should rest," he murmured. "How can I?" Lysander whispered. "The council wants me dead. The prophecy demands it. And you," he hesitated, voice breaking, "you would burn your kingdom for me." "I already have," Darius said quietly. "The moment I defied them, the moment I brought you here." He crossed the room and knelt before Lysander's chair, taking his hand with a gentleness that didn't belong to a warrior king. "I don't want your fear," he said. "I just want the truth. The night you healed me, something happened, didn't it?" Lysander's eyes flickered to the faint glow beneath the skin of his wrist. "You were dying," he said softly. "When I tried to save you, my power bound itself to your life force. It's the mark of the moon healer. It links our souls. Show me." Slowly, Lysander pushed back his sleeve. A pale crescent mark shimmered just beneath his skin, pulsing with soft light, like moonlight trapped inside him. Darius caught his breath and turned his own wrist over. Beneath the skin of the Alpha King, the same crescent gleamed faintly gold. Lysander's eyes widened. "You shouldn't have that. Only the healer bears the mark." "Then perhaps fate had other plans," Darius said, voice low. He reached out, pressing his palm gently against Lysander's. The two crescent lights flared in unison, and a surge of warmth rippled through them both, blinding and bright. Lysander gasped, clutching Darius's hand. The glow grew stronger, spreading across their arms like threads of silver and gold intertwining. The room seemed to breathe with them. The candles flickered. Outside, the moon brightened, and then, pain, sharp and burning. Lysander cried out softly, and Darius immediately let go, eyes wide. The marks dimmed, leaving only a faint shimmer. "Lysander! Did I hurt you?" "No, he was trembling. It wasn't you. The bond, it's changing. It's never done that before." "Changing how?" Lysander shook his head, fear flickering behind his eyes. "The bond only reacts when something deepens it, when emotions grow stronger. It's the moon's way of testing the soul." Darius's breath stilled. "Then the mark reacts because your heart has chosen," Lysander finished softly, "and mine answers it." Silence. The air between them thickened, alive with something unspoken and fragile. Darius reached out again, hesitant this time, and brushed his thumb against Lysander's cheek, tracing a raindrop-shaped scar that shimmered faintly in the light. "You fear your death," he murmured, "but I fear a life without you more." Lysander looked up at him, eyes glassy with emotion. "You shouldn't say things like that. The gods might hear." "Let them," Darius said simply. The world seemed to hold its breath. Outside, clouds drifted across the moon, the light dimmed, And somewhere deep beneath the palace, ancient wards shuddered, reacting to the bond that was never meant to exist. A whisper of magic stirred the night air. The mark on Lysander's wrist flickered once more, this time with a faint golden hue that didn't belong to the moon at all. He didn't see it, but Darius did. And deep in his chest, something primal awakened. That night, the palace would not sleep. The moon hung swollen and bright over the spires, bathing the marble halls in silver. Yet every shadow seemed alive, fluttering at the edge of sight, whispering in voices too ancient for mortal tongues. In the king's private chambers, Darius stood at the balcony, staring toward the horizon. Since the marks had glowed, he hadn't felt the same. His blood ran too hot, his senses sharper, his heartbeat strangely in sync with another's, with Lysander's. When the Omega stirred in his sleep across the room, Darius could feel it like a pulse in his own body. "What are you doing to me, Moonlight?" he thought, watching the pale figure beneath the silk sheets. The wind shifted, and the torches lining the balcony suddenly flared blue. Darius spun. His hand went instinctively to his sword, though the air itself felt heavier than steel. A figure stood near the threshold, the royal seer, cloaked in her veil of stars. "You feel it too, don't you, Your Majesty?" she said, her voice echoing faintly as if it came from two worlds at once. The bond deepens. The curse stirs. "Curse?" Darius growled. "I feel power, not ruin." "Power and ruin are twins," the seer replied. "When the moon-born healer and the golden wolf king unite, heaven trembles. You were never meant to meet again." "Then fate erred," he said coldly, "and I intend to correct it." Her blindfold turned slightly toward Lysander's sleeping form. "You cannot save him. His death was promised to the moon. The moment your bond deepened, his life began to fade." Darius's breath caught. "What?" The seer raised a trembling hand. Between her fingers, faint motes of silver light swirled into the shape of a crescent and a crown. Two symbols joined by a line of fire. "He burns for you even now. The bond pulls from both souls, balancing life for life. To keep you alive, the bond draws upon his essence." Darius's fists clenched. "Then I'll break it." "You cannot," she whispered. "Only the moon-born can sever it, and only by fulfilling the prophecy." "Which is?" The seer hesitated. "He must die under the moonlight's eye to save the world." Darius took a step closer, his voice a low growl. "Then I will destroy the world first." The air went still. For a heartbeat, the seer looked almost afraid. "Careful, King of Wolves," she said softly. "The gods listen when mortals make vows." Before he could reply, she vanished, her form dissolving into threads of moonlight that drifted into the wind. When Darius turned back to Lysander, the Omega was awake. His silver eyes shimmered, filled with quiet pain. "You heard," Darius said, "every word." Lysander sat up slowly, his hands trembling as he clutched the blanket. "The bond is killing me, isn't it?" "No." Darius crossed to him, kneeling at the bedside. "I won't let it." "You can't stop it, Darius." His voice wavered. "Every time you touch me, the mark burns brighter. Every time you feel for me, the moon takes a little more." The king's expression softened with anguish. "Then let her take everything. My power, my life, just not you." Lysander looked away. "You're not meant to defy the gods. Then they can strike me down." He reached for Lysander's hand again. The marks glowed faintly, not with pain this time, but warmth, like the heartbeat of something, alive between them. "Do you feel it?" Darius whispered. "The rhythm, it's the same. Your heart and mine." Lysander nodded weakly. "That's what frightens me." "It should give you hope." But Lysander only smiled sadly. "You don't understand. When two hearts beat as one, only one can last. The other must fade." Darius froze. His throat tightened, but before he could speak, the candles flickered and went out. The windows rattled. A sound like thunder rolled through the palace, but no lightning followed. Outside, the moon itself darkened, just for a moment, its light eclipsed by a shadow no mortal could name. Lysander gasped, clutching his chest. The crescent mark flared brightly, searing like fire. Darius caught him as he collapsed, his own mark burning in answer. "Lysander!" he shouted, holding him tight. "Stay with me!" The light between them blazed, and then everything went white. When the world returned, the chamber was silent. Lysander lay limp in Darius's arms, pale but breathing. The mark had faded, leaving behind only a faint shimmer. like a scar of light. The king held him close, trembling for the first time in years. Outside, the storm clouds were gone. The moon shone bright again, but its light was no longer gentle. Something ancient had awakened in the heavens, and it was watching. Lysander drifts into a dreamscape where he meets the moon goddess herself, who reveals the truth behind his destiny, and the hidden reason the bond was never meant to be broken. Meanwhile, Darius prepares for war against the temple that now calls for the Omega's execution. Darkness, then light, soft, silver, and endless. Lysander floated in a sea of moonlight. The world around him shimmered like mist upon water, and his body felt weightless, free from pain. When he looked down, he saw no wound, no mark, only calm. A woman stood before him. Her hair was like spun starlight, her eyes the same color as his own. The moon goddess. "You've come far, child of silver," she said. Her voice was like 1,000 lullabies woven into one. "Am I dead?" Lysander asked softly. "Not yet," she smiled. "But your heart stands at a crossroad. You're the one who cursed me," he whispered. "You bound my life to his." "No," she said gently, walking toward him. "The bond between you and the Alpha King was not my doing. It was yours. The moment you healed him, you gave him part of your soul." Lysander's chest tightened. "Then why must one of us die?" The goddess's smile faded. "Because the balance of life demands it. His soul burns bright as the sun. Yours glows soft as the moon. If the two unite completely, one must eclipse the other." "Then let it be me," Lysander said. "He deserves to live. His kingdom needs him." The goddess reached out, touching his cheek. "And what of you? What of the heart that beats for him?" Tears shimmered in Lysander's eyes. "I never wanted to love him. But every time he looks at me, I can't breathe. Then perhaps love was the only part of your fate that was truly yours to choose," the goddess said softly. "Remember this, my child. Even the moon may defy the sky if her heart is strong enough." The light around him began to fade. "Wait," Lysander called out, reaching for her. "What do I do?" her voice echoed as she vanished. "Love him, but beware the dawn. For when light and darkness meet, the world will change." Lysander's eyes fluttered open. He was in the king's chambers, bathed in the gentle light of morning. The first thing he saw was Darius, sitting beside the bed, head bowed, his hand clutching Lysander's as if afraid it would slip away. He looked exhausted, unshaven, his golden armor replaced by a simple tunic. When he noticed Lysander stir, he straightened instantly, relief breaking across his face. "You're awake," he whispered. His voice was rough, deeper than usual. "You stopped breathing for almost an hour." Lysander blinked, dazed. "I saw her." "Who?" "The moon goddess." He reached up, fingertips brushing Darius's jaw. "She told me the bond was my doing, that I gave you my soul." Darius's eyes softened, glowing faintly amber in the morning light. He caught Lysander's hand and pressed it to his chest. "Then let it stay here. I'll guard it better than any god." For a long time neither spoke. The world beyond the chamber felt distant, unimportant. The morning breeze stirred the curtains. Sunlight kissed their faces. Lysander's gaze lingered on him, the fierce, untamed king who had defied prophecy for love. "You're not what I expected," he said quietly. "And what did you expect? Someone cruel. Someone untouchable." "I was," Darius murmured. "Until you—" He leaned closer, his forehead resting against Lysander's. Their breaths mingled, slow and unhurried. No words were needed. The silence was full of meaning. "Stay," Darius whispered, "even if the gods demand otherwise." "If I stay," Lysander breathed, "you may lose everything." "Then let me lose it," Darius said softly. "As long as I don't lose you." The warmth between them deepened, not passion, but peace. Darius's hand slid to the back of Lysander's head, drawing him closer until their foreheads and noses touched, the faintest brush of lips meeting in a whisper of promise. It wasn't a kiss of fire, it was one of faith, a vow in the quiet morning light. Outside, the first rays of dawn spilled across the horizon. Somewhere deep in the palace, bells tolled, a warning from the temple. But in that moment, neither of them heard. The Alpha King and the moon-born healer sat together in the glow of dawn, their hearts bound, their fate sealed by love stronger than prophecy. The moon hung low and heavy, crimson as spilled wine. Every whisper in the palace spoke of omens, Every shadow trembled as if watching what fate would unfold that night. But within the Alpha King's private chambers, the world was silent. Lysander stood by the balcony, dressed in the ceremonial white robes the temple had sent for his cleansing. The silver embroidery shimmered against his pale skin, the faint wind tangled his moonlight hair. Behind him, Darius entered quietly, closing the doors with a soft click. His armor was gone. In its place, he wore only a black tunic loose around his shoulders. The gold band on his arm caught the firelight, his royal mark now gleaming faintly as if it too felt the pull between them. "You shouldn't be here," Lysander whispered, not turning around. "If the priests find you—" "Let them," Darius said softly. "Let the whole world see if they must. I'm done hiding what I feel." Lysander turned then. And the look in Darius's eyes stole the air from his lungs. There was hunger there, yes, but beneath it something deeper. Fear, desperation, love that had no words. "They said you were preparing to leave," Darius murmured, stepping closer. "That the goddess demanded your soul to balance mine. If I stay," Lysander said shakily, "you'll die. You know this." Darius stopped before him, close enough for their breaths to mingle. "Then I'll die knowing I had you. Just once, not as my healer, not as my subject, but as mine." The words broke something inside Lysander. Tears shimmered in his eyes, his lips parting on a trembling breath. Darius reached up, his fingers brushing Lysander's jaw. The touch was reverent, almost afraid. "Don't look at me like that," Lysander whispered. "You make it impossible to breathe." "Then stop trying to," Darius murmured, and before Lysander could answer, the Alpha bent and kissed him. It wasn't gentle. It was years of restraint breaking at once, fire and lightning and need all colliding in a single breath. Lysander gasped softly, his hands curling into Darius's tunic as if to steady himself. The world around them melted. The fire, the wind, even the sound of their hearts. Darius deepened the kiss, one hand cupping the back of Lysander's head, the other at his waist, drawing him closer until there was no space between them. The warmth of his body, the scent of cedar and smoke, it wrapped around Lysander like a spell. Their breaths came ragged now. Lysander's knees weakened, and Darius caught him, holding him as though he'd fall apart if he let go. "You can't keep me," Lysander breathed against his lips. "Then I'll keep this," Darius whispered, kissing him again. Slower this time, as if memorizing the shape of him. Lysander's fingers traced Darius's cheek, the curve of his throat, trembling as though every touch branded him. The Alpha pressed his forehead against his, their breaths mingling, the air thick with the scent of heat. "Promise me," Darius said softly, voice barely audible. "Whatever happens tomorrow, remember this night. Remember that I was yours once." Lysander looked up at him through tear-wet lashes. "No," he whispered, "you're not mine once. You're mine always." And then, as the blood moon bathed the chamber in crimson light, they kissed again. Deeper, slower, like two souls binding themselves to a fate neither could escape. Outside, thunder rolled. The world held its breath. Inside, two hearts beat in perfect, perilous rhythm. Morning came with silence. No birdsong, no wind, only the distant toll of the temple bells. Lysander stirred in the king's bed, the world around him heavy with the scent of incense and storm. The crimson hue of dawn still clung to the curtains. His body ached, not with pain, but with the lingering warmth of everything that had passed the night before. Darius stood by the balcony, shirt half open, his golden hair tangled from restless hours. He'd barely moved since the first light broke, watching the horizon with the stillness of a man who knew the storm would soon find him. "They know," he said finally, voice rough. "The temple's spies saw the blood moon flare over the palace." Lysander sat up slowly, clutching the sheets around him. "Then it's over." "No," Darius said, turning toward him. "It's only beginning." Before Lysander could speak, the air changed. A shimmer, soft silver blinding, filled the room. The flames bowed low, the walls seemed to breathe. And then, from that shimmering light, she appeared. The moon goddess herself, barefoot, ageless, her gown woven of light and stars. Her eyes, Lysander's eyes, fell upon them both. "Children of night and flame," she said softly, "you have defied the will of heaven." Lysander fell to his knees, trembling. "Goddess," "Forgive me, I couldn't. You could have walked away," the goddess interrupted. "You were meant to be his healer, not his heart." Darius stepped forward, unflinching despite the divine radiance that pressed against him. "If you came to take him, you'll have to kill me first." The goddess regarded him with sadness. "You would challenge the divine for an omega?" "For my mate," Darius said fiercely. "Yes." Lightning rippled across the sky outside. The chamber shuddered. The goddess's gaze softened then, as if she saw something that pained her. "Foolish Alpha King," she whispered. "Do you not understand? His love has already rewritten your fate. Your souls are one now. To sever it would destroy you both." Lysander looked up in shock. "Then what must we do?" The goddess stepped closer, her hand hovering above their joined hearts. "There is only one path. The bond must be sanctified by blood and vow. You will become more than mortal, bound under moon and sun alike. But your child," she paused, eyes closing briefly, "will carry the price of your union." The word child struck the air like thunder. Lysander's breath hitched. His hand went to his abdomen unconsciously, where warmth, faint and pulsing, glowed beneath his skin. "No," he whispered. "It's too soon." The goddess smiled faintly. "Life does not wait for the right moment. It chooses its own." Darius knelt beside him, his hand covering Lysander's trembling one. "Then whatever the price, I'll pay it. For him, for both of them." The goddess looked between them, Alpha and Omega, king and healer, and for the first time a single tear slid down her celestial cheek. "Then so be it," she said. "When the blood moon rises again, your bond shall be tested. The world will bow or burn by what your love becomes." The light exploded outward, silver fire, divine and wild. When it faded, she was gone. But in her place, carved into the stone floor, was a sigil glowing faintly, a crescent moon entwined with a burning sun. Lysander stared at it, then at Darius. "She's bound us, hasn't she?" Darius pulled him close, pressing a kiss to his forehead. "Then let the gods watch," he murmured. "Because this time, it's our fate to right." Outside, thunder rolled again, louder, darker, like drums of war. The moon goddess had left them with prophecy, and the heavens themselves trembled at what love had just unleashed. The bells of the temple tolled through the capital like thunder. Each sound carried a decree. The Alpha King has defied the heavens. By dawn, the sacred priests declared war. Smoke rose over the holy city as banners of gold and silver fluttered in defiance. And deep in the palace, the lovers who had broken fate itself faced the cost of their union. Lysander stood before a mirror in Darius's private chamber, staring at his reflection in disbelief. His hand rested over his abdomen, where warmth pulsed faintly beneath his skin. A promise of life, a heartbeat that was not his own. His breath trembled. How can this be? Behind him, Darius approached quietly. His armor gleamed faintly in the candlelight, not for battle yet, but ready. His eyes softened when they met Lysander's through the mirror. "The goddess said our bond changed the laws of the world," he murmured. "You carry the proof of it." Lysander turned, the weight of what he bore trembling through him. "They'll call it blasphemy. They'll call me a monster." Darius stepped closer, his hand rising to cup Lysander's cheek. "Then let them. You've given me something the gods themselves never could, a reason to live for more than a crown." Lysander's throat ached with unshed tears. "You can't fight the temple, Darius. They'll burn everything." "Then I'll build a new world from the ashes," Darius said, voice low and fierce. "One where no Omega dies for loving who they choose." The words were fire, and something in Lysander's heart broke open. He reached for him, his hands trembling as they met Darius's chest, feeling the steady thrum of his heartbeat. "Why do you keep risking everything for me?" "Because when I look at you," Darius whispered, leaning close, "I see the part of myself that's still human." Their foreheads touched. The world fell away again. No crown, no prophecy, no divine judgment, only the steady pulse of their bond. Later that night, the palace guards brought dire news. The temple's armies had begun to march. The high priest himself rode under the banner of the moon goddess, carrying a relic said to slay immortals. Darius ordered the evacuation of the palace's outer rings. He gave his generals command, but when they asked for his next move, he said only one thing: We fight not for the gods, we fight for freedom. As twilight descended, Lysander stood on the balcony, wrapped in a cloak of midnight blue. The wind was sharp, heavy with the scent of rain and smoke. He could feel the child's heartbeat now, faint, fluttering like a bird beneath his ribs. It made him want to weep and smile all at once. He whispered to the night, "If you can hear me, goddess, please don't take him from me, don't take us." Behind him, arms slid gently around his waist. "Darius, you should rest," he murmured. "How can I, when the world is about to burn?" Lysander said softly. "Then let it burn after dawn," Darius whispered, pressing a soft kiss to his hair. "Tonight belongs to us." The words carried no fire this time, only quiet devotion. Lysander turned in his embrace, resting his head against Darius's chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heart. For one fragile moment, it felt as though the world beyond the balcony didn't exist. Far beyond the city walls, beneath the temple's highest spire, the high priest knelt before the moon goddess's altar. "He has broken your law, my lady. The Omega carries forbidden life. Command me, and I will end this heresy." The silver flames on the altar flickered once. A voice, soft, sorrowful, divine, echoed through the chamber. "No, my servant, you cannot stop what has already begun, for love has taken root even in defiance of heaven." The high priest bowed his head, trembling. Then the prophecy. "The prophecy has changed," whispered the goddess. "And when the blood moon returns, the world shall kneel not to gods, but to the child born of light and shadow." The palace no longer slept. Torches burned through the night, soldiers moved through the courtyards, and banners bearing the royal crest were lowered halfway, a silent sign of mourning for peace lost. In the royal bedchamber, the storm outside mirrored the one within. Lysander sat by the window, his silver hair catching flashes of lightning. Rain streaked the glass like tears, and each distant rumble of thunder made him flinch, not for himself, but for what was coming. Darius entered quietly, his armor gleaming with the reflection of firelight. His sword hung at his hip, a silent promise of the war to come. "You should lie down," he murmured, kneeling before him. "You're trembling." "I can feel it," Lysander whispered, pressing a hand to his abdomen. "The heart beats stronger tonight." Darius's gaze softened. He reached out, resting his palm gently over Lysander's hand. The warmth between them glowed, faintly golden, pulsing in time with that fragile second rhythm. "He's fighting to live," Darius said quietly. "Just like his parents." A faint smile touched Lysander's lips. "You think it's a boy?" "I know it is," Darius said, his voice deep and certain. "A prince born under the blood moon." Lysander looked down at him, this fearsome, stubborn alpha who had once believed himself incapable of tenderness. His heart ached with love so strong it frightened him. "You shouldn't love me this much," he whispered. "It's dangerous." "It's already too late for that," Darius replied, rising slowly to cup Lysander's face in his hands. "If loving you is the end of me, then I'll meet my death smiling." Lysander's breath caught. He reached up, covering Darius's hands with his own. "When the temple comes for me." "If they come," Darius interrupted firmly. "When they come," Lysander continued softly, "promise me you won't lose yourself in rage. Promise me you'll protect our child, even if I—" Darius silenced him with a gentle touch of his thumb over his lips. "Don't speak like that." Lysander's eyes glistened. "I'm afraid, Darius." "So am I," he admitted quietly. "But fear only means we have something to lose. And that something is everything." He pulled Lysander into his arms then, holding him, feeling his heartbeat against his own. Rain battered the glass. Lightning tore across the sky. But inside that embrace, there was only warmth. Later, when the storm quieted, Darius lay beside Lysander, watching him breathe. The Omega had finally drifted into uneasy sleep, his fingers curled near his heart. Darius brushed a stray strand of hair from his face and pressed a soft kiss to his temple. "You've given me the world," he whispered, "and I'll burn kingdoms before I let it take you from me." Outside, in the darkness beyond the palace walls, something stirred. An army of white-robed priests marched beneath silver banners. At their head rode the high priest, his staff aglow with the symbol of the moon. And far above them, hidden by the clouds, the goddess watched. Her divine eyes shimmered with conflict. love for her child of moonlight, and sorrow for the world about to be torn apart. "He carries my light," she murmured, "and the Alpha carries my flame. Perhaps the end of one world is the beginning of another." Lightning struck the temple's spire, splitting it clean in two. The war of gods and mortals had begun. The night was no longer quiet. Drums thundered beyond the palace walls, their rhythm echoing through every corridor. From the highest tower, Lysander could see the fires, lines of torches moving like serpents toward the city gates. The temple army had come. He stood in silence, the wind tugging at his cloak, the glow beneath his palm pulsing stronger than ever. The child stirred within him, not with fear, but power. The air itself seemed to hum around him, charged with something ancient and divine. Behind him, the doors burst open. Darius entered, his armor blood-red in the torchlight, his expression carved with fury and determination. "They've breached the outer wall," he said, "but they won't reach you, Darius." He crossed the room in 2 strides, taking Lysander's face in his hands, his voice breaking. "I won't let them touch you. I won't let them take you. You can't fight the goddess," Lysander whispered, his voice trembling. "Not with steel." "Then I'll fight with my soul," Darius said. Thunder cracked above them, and suddenly, the sky turned silver white. The storm clouds parted, revealing the blood moon, enormous and low, bathing the city in eerie light. Lysander gasped, clutching at his chest. "She's here." The world trembled. From the temple's direction, a pillar of light surged into the heavens, splitting the clouds apart. The high priest, his eyes burning with divine radiance, raised his staff high. "By the will of the moon goddess, purge the heretics!" he cried. A wave of silver fire swept through the streets, striking down soldiers and stone alike. The palace walls shuddered, and windows shattered under the divine shockwave. Darius caught Lysander as he stumbled, shielding him with his body. The fire passed over them harmlessly, repelled by something unseen. Lysander looked down. The mark on his wrist, the crescent and the sun, burned brighter than ever. "She's protecting us," he whispered in disbelief. "Then maybe even the gods have changed their minds," Darius said, eyes fierce. "Come, there's something you need to see." He led Lysander to the throne room, now transformed into a battlefield command. Maps littered the tables, messengers rushed in and out. But at the center of the room stood something no mortal hand had made, a shimmering barrier of silver and gold light, pulsating like a heartbeat. "It appeared when the moon rose," said Darius. "It surrounds the inner palace. The soldiers say your power created it." Lysander stared, his throat tight. "It's not mine," he murmured. "It's ours." As if in response, the barrier flickered, and the entire palace seemed to breathe. Darius took his hand. "Then let it protect what we love." Hours passed like minutes. The temple's army crashed against the divine shield, their prayers turning to screams as their magic faltered. But inside, Lysander felt his strength fading, each surge of power drawing from him and the life within. He fell to his knees, clutching his abdomen. "It hurts." Darius dropped beside him, panic flashing in his eyes. "Lysander, stay with me." The glow beneath Lysander's skin pulsed wildly now, brighter, faster. He gasped, his breath shallow. "He's coming," Lysander whispered weakly. "The child. He's coming." Darius's eyes widened. "Now?" In the middle of the words were lost to the roar of thunder. The blood moon blazed above them like a second sun. The goddess's voice filled the chamber, soft and sorrowful. "So it begins." The barrier outside shattered like glass. The temple's priests fell to their knees, covering their eyes as silver light poured from the palace windows. Within, Lysander's cries mingled with the roar of the storm. The very stones of the castle glowed, the air trembling with energy. Darius held him, whispering words of comfort, his tears falling into Lysander's hair. "I'm here. I'm right here, my love." And then, silence. A single blinding flash of light filled the world. When it faded, the temple army was gone, their power erased, their prayers scattered to the wind. In the center of the ruined hall, Lysander lay in Darius's arms, cradling a small bundle wrapped in silver cloth. A faint glow surrounded the newborn's form, soft as moonlight, warm as dawn. The child opened his eyes, and for the briefest moment, Darius saw both their souls reflected there. One golden, 1 silver. Lysander smiled weakly, tears shimmering on his lashes. He's beautiful. He's ours, Darius whispered, voice breaking. Outside, the blood moon dimmed, its light fading into morning. The war was over, but the world, forever changed, would never be the same. The dawn after the blood moon was silent. No bird sang, no bell tolled, even the wind seemed to hold its breath. In the throne hall, silver ash drifted through the air like snow. The battle had ended, but peace had come at a terrible price. Darius sat on the shattered steps of his throne, his body covered in blood and dust. In his arms, Lysander lay still, pale as moonlight, lips parted in a soft, eternal sigh. The child, wrapped in silk and starlight, slept beside them, his tiny hand curled around a golden strand of his father's hair. Darius's voice was hoarse, his words breaking as they left him. "You said the world would change," he whispered. "But not like this." He pressed his forehead against Lysander's cold one, tears tracing lines through the soot on his face. "Come back to me, my love. You can't leave me here with a kingdom built on your grave." The hall was empty, save for the echo of his grief. But somewhere above, faint and distant, the moon goddess wept too. The weeks that followed were a blur of fire and ruin. Darius became a shadow of himself. He wore his crown like a curse and his sword like vengeance. Cities that defied him burned. Priests who spoke the goddess's name were silenced. The bards began to whisper of the mad Sun King, the Alpha whose love had driven him past sanity. But even in rage, he never harmed the child. The boy, with eyes the color of dawn and hair that shimmered silver beneath moonlight, grew in the heart of the storm. And every night, when the palace grew quiet, Darius would hold him close and whisper the same words again and again. "You have her light. You have his heart. Someday you'll understand." One night, years later, as the boy slept peacefully, the moon turned silver once more. Not blood, but pure and radiant. The wind stirred, soft and warm. The flames in the torches bent low. And from the light that filled the nursery, a voice spoke. "You have grieved long enough, my child." Darius froze. The moon goddess stood beside the crib, her gaze full of both sorrow and tenderness. "Why show yourself now?" he demanded, his voice rough from years of silence. "Why not when she—" He stopped, unable to speak. The word died. The goddess smiled faintly. "Because death was never the end of him." She reached down, touching the sleeping child's brow. Silver light bloomed beneath her fingers, spreading through the air like ripples on water. "His soul was too strong for the void," she whispered. "When the blood moon rose, he gave you his life, and I gave him another." The child stirred, opening his eyes, and Darius's breath caught in his throat. For a heartbeat, those eyes were not the child's. They were Lysander's. Soft. Silver. Infinite. "Darius," the child whispered, his voice carrying the faintest echo of the Omega's tone. The king fell to his knees beside the crib, trembling as tears spilled freely down his face. "Lysander?" The goddess smiled through her own tears. "The prophecy is fulfilled. The moon Omega is reborn, not by curse, but by love. His spirit lives in this child, unbound by fate." She turned to Darius. "Your bloodline's curse is broken. No longer will your heirs be born to tragedy. You chose love over destiny, and in doing so, you freed them all." Darius bowed his head, his voice breaking. "Then let me protect him. Protect them. For as long as I live, you will," the goddess said softly. "For love that defies heaven can never truly die." The silver light began to fade. The goddess's form dissolved into moonbeams, leaving behind the faint scent of starlight and lilies. The child, Lysander reborn, reached for Darius with a sleepy smile. The king gathered him in his arms, holding him close, his tears falling freely into the child's hair. "Welcome home," he whispered. "My moon, my heart, my forever." Outside, dawn broke over the ruined kingdom, not crimson, but gold. And for the first time in years, the Alpha King smiled. The curse was gone. The moon had been reborn. And love had conquered death itself. Years passed. The world healed. Under the reign of the Moon Prince, the kingdom flourished once more. Fields once burned by war now shimmered with silver grain, rivers once red with blood ran clear again. The people called him the child of the moon and the sun, born of love that even the gods could not break. And every full moon, when the sky turned pale and soft, he would stand on the balcony of the moon tower, gazing toward the heavens, where he swore he could still hear the whisper of the goddess and the voice of the Father who loved him more than the world itself. King Darius grew older, but never weaker. His eyes held warmth again, though some nights he'd wake in his bed with tears on his face, swearing he'd seen Lysander's reflection smiling at him in the mirror of moonlight. "You never left me," he would murmur into the night. "You only changed form." On the anniversary of the blood moon, now celebrated as the festival of rebirth, the kingdom gathered beneath lanterns that floated toward the heavens. The child king, now nearing manhood, wore robes of white and silver, his hair catching the light of 1,000 candles. When he stepped out to address his people, silence swept the crowd. "Tonight," he said, "we celebrate not survival but rebirth. The day our kingdom learned that love is the strongest kind of immortality." His voice was gentle yet carried the same regal command as his father's, but there was something else in his tone, a distant ache, something that shimmered beneath the surface of peace. As the crowd cheered, he turned his gaze upward, whispering quietly to the stars, "If you can hear me, I remember everything." Later that night, as the last lanterns drifted into the heavens, a shadow passed across the moon, faint, fleeting, but unmistakable. The light dimmed, the wind stilled, the palace torches flickered once, then steadied. The Moon Prince froze. His hand went to his chest, the place where the mark of the moon goddess once glowed faintly at birth. For the first time in years, it burned. He gasped, clutching the railing as a rush of visions filled his mind. Flashes of fire, the sound of a heartbeat, the whisper of a voice too ancient and too familiar to be human. "My child." It wasn't the moon goddess's voice. It was Lysander's. But not gentle, no. It was distant, weakened, calling, and then, through the fading silver mist, a figure appeared in his vision. A man cloaked in black, his eyes glowing the same silver as the Moon Prince's own. He smiled faintly. The cycle never truly ends. The vision shattered. The prince collapsed to his knees, gasping. When he looked up again, the moon was whole once more. But a single drop of crimson gleamed in its heart, pulsing like a heartbeat. Somewhere deep in the mountains, far from the palace, the earth cracked open, and silver light poured through the soil like blood. The prophecy had been fulfilled once, but perhaps the curse was only sleeping, and in the silence between one breath and the next, the moon goddess whispered in the dark, "Rebirth always comes with a price." To be continued. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Kindly comment below if you loved it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more amazing content. Drop a comment with your favorite moment, and I'll see you in the next one.